Folks, this podcast is brought to you by Parlay Play Fantasy Sports. Use my referral code RotoBrady. Get that sweet, sweet deposit bonus. They got paid contests coming to a state near you. They're giving out boosts and bonuses. They're slashing lines all day long. Hop in those player prop DFS contests. It's a real fun platform over there. And what is up, everybody? This is Brady Grove bringing you another interlude episode of Tap That MMA podcast. And with me today,
All right, ladies and gentlemen, after 5 rounds of action, we go to our judges' scorecards. And our judges scored at 49, 46, 48, 47, 48, 47. And now, for your new Titan FC, Oliver!
folks, he is an 8-3 professional born in Queens, New York. Give it up for Olivier, God, warrior of God, Murad. Olivier, thank you so much for being here. How's it going, man?
Doing good, doing good. I appreciate you pronouncing my first name right. That's been the toughest part of my journey, was
I'm
the
glad.
announcers getting my name right.
I'm glad. I'm glad that I did. And so, Olivier, first off, that was a clip from your title fight at Titan FC 67 against Muhammad Naimov back in February 2021. It was a very high level title fight. The main event of that card was actually Damone Blackshear versus Danny Sabatello. So it was a very high level card overall. You have fought a lot of high level fighters throughout your professional career. And in fact, one of your more recent wins was against Kama Worthy at 247 FC back in September of 2024. So, like, you've shown clearly over the course of your professional career that you are very capable of beating very high level fighters.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm able to compete with the best of the best. It's very difficult to find fights, so that's pretty much all I'm able to fight, and I'm fine with that.
And so, like, one thing that I know has been an issue throughout your professional career has just been like some of the longer gaps in between fights. I know that you probably would have wanted to fight a little bit more often in some of those stretches. So, what were the reasons for some of the gaps when you weren't able to fight as often as you'd like?
Man, to be direct, there were injuries here and there, but they're very minimal. The main issue about those gaps and why they occurred was because of so many opponents denying the matchups. What was it? After I won the Contender Series fight, I ended up having it was 36 people who declined matching up against me. I had 36 people. So then the fight after that, I had to take it injured because I couldn't pass up the opportunity.
Oh, Jesus. And especially that's a rough spot to be in coming off a Contender Series win. And like that was a period of time where I guess if people were winning by decision on the Contender Series, it just like they just weren't extending those contract offers.
Right, right. I fought a pretty notable opponent, Zbin from ONE FC, and that guy was on a 5-fight winning streak until he fought me. That guy, I kept on cracking him, and then he just wanted to hold on for dear life. So then Bisbing and Dana White, they kind of saw it. They wanted to see more action.
And that's kind of an annoying thing that I it does come out of the Contender Series. Like to take a single fight that somebody has and say like, oh, well, that wasn't like that exciting. And it's like, I know you have to use that opportunity to like its fullest. At the same time, you have to take people's entire professional resumes into account when you're judging a Contender Series fight. Like that is not the only fight of their professional career. They have many, many others, and they're certainly capable of very exciting performances. The question should be the quality.
Mm, mhm.
So now this last fight that you had one fight in 2025. It was against Nick Fiore at Combat Zone 87. Obviously, it didn't end up going the way that you wanted to. But what were what were some of the like thoughts that you had going into that fight, and then what did you end up kind of taking from that performance?
Yeah, that I need to compete at my most prepared because I also went on a little hiatus of opponents ducking me. So this has been occurring since my first professional fight. I've been having people ducking me left and right, and it's been a pain in my career. Like you mentioned, that there's such a large gap. I did want to fight more. I wanted to fight at least 3 to 4 times a year at least. My amateur fight, my first year, I had 6 fights in one year. Then the year after that, nothing. The year after that, I had one, and then the year after that, I went professional because I started noticing time just started speeding up. So I'm not getting any younger, but I do want to get more active. I'm getting stronger, and I feel faster and more technical. That Nick Fury fight, there's a lot going on, a lot of work. I had a death in the family. I was able to make it to all the other classes except for the jiu-jitsu classes, right? So my cardio was good, my striking was on point. I was picking them apart on the feet, but when I went to the ground, it becomes a lot of muscle memory. And then uh I felt like I was kind of thinking too much of my actions rather than it being more like subconscious. Then
And
he was getting a step ahead of me in the grappling until yeah, I got submitted.
and I mean that's a guy that you kind of know a little bit what to expect going into that fight. Like he's only had wins inside the distance. Most of them have been by submission. Now, historically, like we've seen you escape, plenty of stickier situations in the grappling department. You're very well rounded. I think that the number one word that comes up when describing you as a fighter is dynamic. You're dangerous on the feet. You're able to control wrestling situations well. The Muhammad Naimov fight in particular, the one that I just most recently rewatched is, very like poignant of all of your strengths. Is over the course of 5 rounds, you completely turned the tide in the grappling department as it got later in that fight.
Yeah, that's my background. Wrestling my background, so grappling is second nature to me.
Now, like with the camp that you come from, freedom fighters, is being incredibly well rounded. Is that sort of a staple of that particular camp?
Yes, definitely. We have a great jiu-jitsu program and a great striking program as well. We have two excellent coaches. We have Manuel Lopez, legend in the strike game, and then we have Raymond Fundora. He's developed an amazing grappling team in such a short period of time.
So, like, what are your roots? I know that you were born, at least according to typology. Now, it's not past them to get things wrong, but born in Queens, New York. I know that your nationality of root is from Haiti. So how did you kind of get into combat sports into mixed martial arts as you were growing up?
Oh man, I was always involved in combat sports. Not really some like getting into the classes, but just watching a bunch of karate movies, Jean-Claude Van Damme, from everything. Even from movies like Blade, like the weapons are cool, but I was more in tune with the martial arts aspect. A lot of Bruce Lee movies. I was always into martial arts in general. And the moment that I tried out wrestling in middle school, it just clicked. Like it's like a legal fight. It's fun. Even though I was never the type to really get in fights in middle school and high school, but it just became a connection. Like, I always had this essence in my spirit that I'm a warrior, and then it just clicked with wrestling. And the moment I seen UFC on TV for the first time, it hit me. It wasn't like I had a second thought. I knew this was what I wanted to do, and I stuck to it ever since.
It's funny, especially when people talk about like, in this era when people talk about fighter pay or when people talk about just like the long-term health implications of doing any sport where there's contact and damage that gets taken. But a lot of people just don't understand that that is just all that some people they wouldn't have it any other way when it comes to like what they're doing with their life. Like there is no other like you can go and work another job, but it's not going to fuel that flame the same way that competing in MMA does.
Yeah, yeah, I can see what you mean. Like, it's almost like a lot of athletes, they end up losing that high. They don't have that high to chase anymore. So then, unfortunately, a lot of athletes like they end up suffering mentally. They end up going through depression, and they can really go through a rut. I always anticipated the risks of this sport. And of course, this is not a sport that we're gonna be in forever. Like we can be in the sport forever, but competing only to a certain extent. Like I'm planning on getting out this game around 35, but hey, I might extend it a little longer. I'm super healthy and I'm only getting better, so hey, why not? And plus, I'm really good at risk management. A lot of athletes, they don't know how to take care of their health. They think there's only one route, and that's just go forward. But you can definitely take angles when, if, for instance, if you're in a fight, if you take an angle, you have the dominant position. You're gonna be able to hit them where they can't see it coming, and you're gonna be able to avoid shots that they don't think you're gonna expect. So yeah, I've always took a healthy approach, very direct, and yeah, I'm open to what life has after. I'm a very optimistic individual.
And it's interesting because in this era, if people want to compete, like, let's say anywhere from 35 to 40 is when you typically look at an MMA fighter and say, like, how much time does that person have left? But at the same time, in this era, there are more things for them to do competing actually than ever before. There's all the pro grappling, promotions. There's I mean, all the different boxing promotions is where people are trying to use to kind of cash in and try to make like bigger paydays at the end of their career. People are extending their careers through bare knuckle because actually bare knuckle isn't as rough on people from a long term basis. So if people want to compete past the age of 40 now, there's never been more opportunities to do so.
That's true. Plus medical developments at a whole new era that like supposedly there's some gems where there's some scientific improvements in Japan stating that we can live past 120. So I completely believe it. You gotta know how to take the routes and yeah, of course, like look at people like Fedor Emelianenko and Yoel Romero. These guys are well in their 40s still competing well.
Yo Romero doesn't look a day over 27, at least from the head down, most of the time. Now,
Was he really a training partner for a few years? Like he was one of my teammates. Like would spar and train all the time.
what an interesting person he is. What a fantastic personality. And so, you know, right now, and real quick before, just in case we accidentally forget, I don't think we would, but I know that you had some exciting news of late. Would you like to go ahead and say what that was?
Oh yeah, yes. So Vigilant Promotions, that was the first promotion that I became a professional champion for. They're inducting me into their Hall of Fame as of January 31st. So
Congratulations, man.
you guys.
That's awesome. I love that. bec- Take this back 10 years in this sport. I don't know if a lot of promotions would even have the wherewithal or, frankly, their shit together enough to even have something like that. And it seems like a lot more promotions, they handle their business a lot better and they're way better at doing stuff like this and recognizing, it's good for marketing for sure and recognizing the fighters that helped get them to the point that they're at that day. It seems like a lot more promotions are way better at that kind of stuff now.
I agree. I wish I was an amateur fighter in this era because when I was an amateur fighter, we didn't have any cameramen, no one recording all of our fights, putting together production. It was very direct. We're here in clubs, setting up small octagons, just going at it.
That's the crazy thing is like if you're trying to find someone's fights from their amateur days going back 10 years ago, that might be a struggle on YouTube. You're hoping maybe for some grainy cell phone footage that people put on Facebook or something like that. But now every promotion, whether they have some sort of streaming deal or whether they're just doing it on their own, they have their own internet pay-per-view, they have their own broadcasters. This is what I mean. And like even with like a 247 that you fought with back in September of 2024, that's a promotion that kind of epitomizes what I'm talking about. I've always respected the way that they do their business. They're very professional. The more
Yep.
professional organizations like there are like that at the regional level, it's only better for the sport because it encourages people to continue in the sport. It when it was 20 years ago, when people were showing up and they're like, "Hey, you actually have to fight a heavyweight for 50% less than you were going to take." And there's no cameras, people are throwing glass bottles or whatever the hell it is. Like that's a sign to a lot of people like I can't do this much longer, man. But this is a different era of professionalism.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you still gotta love the sport because it's so rugged and gruesome on the body that if you don't have the love for it, it's gonna drag you out. But now the sport motivates me. I don't shy away from any confrontation.
So, what are your plans right now moving into 2026? I would imagine like you're trying to get a fight, whenever it makes the most sense for you. But, what are you trying to accomplish this year? And something that I've been bringing up more is like now LFA, a promotion you fought with before, they're moving to Vice TV. I don't know who's going to be paying on Vice TV to just be watching LFA. And I say that as someone who has multiple different streaming subscriptions to different things so that I can keep up with as much of it. I don't know if I'll be able to fit that in. So all these guys are all these promotions are moving their deals around and everything. It changes the exposure people will get on those promotions. So does that change at all how you plan for the future?
No, not at all. Not at all. I actually commend a lot of these promotions wanting to break away and grow independently because UFC Fight Pass is amazing. But there's some deals that you and I don't know about that maybe the UFC and the other platforms just didn't agree upon. And they broke away on I'm sure on good terms. More power to the UFC and all the other promotions. At the end of the day, right, it's all about us fighters and the promoters wanting to put on good shows. So that's gonna continue. We fighters are still gonna continue to fight, and right, it has nothing to do with me.
And so like I get I buried this under the second question. So like what are your plans and goals for 2026?
Right. The goal is to get back active. I want to get at least 3 fights. I'm looking to go on a 3 fight winning streak and then yeah, go into a big promotion again. Yeah, because I know that Dana wanted me to get about 3 fights, and I feel like 3 fights is the ticket to really get into the UFC, especially if I'm always fighting prospects. That should do the trick. I already had a bunch of people say no. I'm already on the fifth person of the year to say no. I had a title fight in Alaska. The guy was 11-2, record padded with cans. Of course, he doesn't want to fight me. And then I had another guy for CFFC duck me. So right now, I'm just open, looking to see what cards are available and then who's willing to fight.
And look, I don't know what people you're specifically talking about. What I will say
I
is
didn't want to throw any names like that.
and that's cool. I wouldn't expect you to. What I will say is that it's lame. Like these people are fighters. You would
Mhm.
think that they would want to test that metal against another person that's considered to be a really good fighter. So you might be frozen there for a second. I'll let you. There we go. There we go. But it's disheartening when someone like you is having trouble getting a matchup because other people that call themselves fighters don't want to fight you.
Yeah, it's saddening to the sport. It's almost dishonoring to the sport because, right, I feel like my time was the last of the rugged era where we didn't care who we fought. But this era, they just want to pad their records. They don't want to get hurt. They're not willing to face the tough competition, and that tends to show when they get to a higher organization. Excuse me. That's when the fighters that built up their records usually end up losing.
And I mean, that's when this is also how the term fraud check kind of came up in just the recent years is there are those people who just destroyed people, everybody they fought on the whole way up. And then you see that they still have a lot of work to go. Maybe further than some of the people at promotions that are some of the best regional promotions. And it's like, well, dude, like everybody wants to have that perfect 15-0, 15 knockouts on the way up. Of course, that's the easiest path. It's probably the best path for your health, to be honest. Like to not take any damage and destroy everybody in a few minutes. Sure, I get the logic in that. But when somebody looks at your professional resume, you can't deny the quality when you've defeated people like Muhammad Naimov and Kama Worthy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My record definitely speaks out for itself. Just needs more fights. 8-3 is not enough. I've been professional for too long, and I can't be doing 1 to 2 fights per year. Like, come on, like who's willing to fight? I'm open. Hey, just give me a call. Let me know when and where. Let's do it. My next fight, I want to do it at 145. The whole reason I bumped up to 155 is because no one wanted to fight me anymore at 145. And then, ironically, like nothing against Nick Fury, but but I know that the Boston team was after me. They all trained together. When I won the belt in Combat Zone, I know that they're a pretty tight-knit family, and it just seemed like they kept on trying to throw people from their gym at me, trying to, I don't know, get revenge or something like that. I thought it was
Probably,
interesting.
probably did, probably did. And like, I mean, you look jacked at lightweight. You look super jacked at featherweight. Is that a hard cut for you to make it all?
45, it can be a bit challenging, about 20, 25 pounds. 155 felt great. Felt great.
And this is something I've discussed with a lot of people on here recently. Is like, it feels like it's inevitable that MMA is going to expand how many weight classes there are at some point, and whatever that looks like. I know a lot of people agree that you don't want to see it become boxing, where there's so many divisions and so many champions that you can't even keep track of them. At the same time, how many times are we going to watch people miss weight for big events? And
Mhm.
it's not like they're not professional people. They're for most of their career they've been professional, and then big events fall through because of weight cutting. You're never really seeing some people at the right weight for them. Like imagine Mirko Krokop if cruiserweight had existed back in the day in the UFC. Uh, I always throw out Michelle Waterson. I think could have been a world champion at 105 pounds for years if atom weight had existed at the top level. What are your takes on where you think the sport is headed in that department, and what you think that might look like?
Open weights, I feel like one championship is it's pretty good at directing that there's probably gonna be like an atom weight coming around the UFC eventually because I feel like that weight class is gaining a lot of attention. And then I definitely agree with opening up like a cruiserweight somewhere between that 206, 265 mark. Because right now you have big guys cutting down to 265. They have to cut 30, 40 pounds. So it's like that would be ideal to add in another weight class between that light heavyweight division.
And it's just so crazy because there are really talented people that fight at 220, 230, 235. And it's like, it still is not optimal for fighting at heavyweight. That's what you get when you have a 60-pound gap between the weights that you can fight at in a certain weight class. So there's people in the UFC right now that I think, like, God, if that guy could drop down to light heavyweight, but then what's the skill difference? And then you see different light heavyweights, and it's like, if that guy gained 25 pounds and fought like a little bit heavier, I think he'd walk through a lot of people at the lower level of heavyweight. But at a certain point, you will hit a ceiling where like that size discrepancy maybe can't be made up. Certainly, it can be made up at the lower levels of that weight class. But once you get the top, 15, top 10, that extra 30 pounds is going to make a huge difference.
Right. It's always harder to gain weight than to lose.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I think pretty much anybody listening can testify to that. Uh,
Yeah. Light heavyweight, and you're trying to maximize being a heavyweight, like gaining that 60 pounds, it's gonna be very difficult.
so I know that you proudly rep your Haitian roots as a fighter. Um, what? Because I mean, we see so many, countries represented in mixed martial arts. Is one of the amazing things about it is I think like fighting with a couple other sports are universal languages. There's a reason that they exist in every country on earth. So what are kind of the distinct aspects of having those Haitian cultural roots in you as a fighter?
So one thing about Haitians, they're natural born warriors. Like they stand up for what is just and unjust. Uh, in one aspect that Haiti's well known for is standing up against colonialism. They've seen it way too much, and right, they won't allow anything like that to occur. Whenever a politician acts out of line in Haiti, it's the people that go after them to the point where the politicians are pressured into exile. They leave themselves because because the Haitians don't play. And yeah, that's definitely etched in my blood, and I represent for my people to the death because we stand more more than against colonialism. We stand for independence. Like Haitian, Haitians, like we moralized other countries to gain their independence. They supported Simon Bolivar to free up Venezuela and a lot of other Latin countries, and the list goes on. So I'm definitely representing for my people because they will fight to the death for what is right.
I love that about the pressure on politicians. That's something that maybe a lot of other countries should adopt. Maybe things would be going better for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, another thing is this is a weird era for a fighter in your position, right? Because you've had so many high level fights at different some of the top regional promotions, places that people look when they're looking at who's going to be in the UFC next. But when it comes to the UFC, people are either waiting for the right timing to get signed, whether it's a late notice replacement kind of thing. They're waiting for the Contender series, whatever it might be. But like that still is kind of like timing dependent. Things have to be right at that time for those things to happen. And right now, there's PFL, and PFL is much more of a seasonal thing. And then there's Ryzen, and then you're talking like going to like Poland or Germany, like for KSW or Octagon or something like that. Do you try to plan it all for the alternatives to the UFC being in the position you're in?
Yeah, yeah, I'm definitely open to other platforms. Exactly. Like to be honest, my goal in my career is to be a successful MMA fighter, and I believe I'm on the right journey. So whether it's UFC, PFL, Ryzen, I'm open to fight anywhere against anyone. I just want to fight because at the end of the day, I didn't get in this just because to be to be a UFC fighter. I'm in this game to be a professional MMA fighter and a world champ. Yes, I have one world title, but I need more. I need more. Three professional belts is not enough. I got to get more. I want to be able to completely live off this career. And unfortunately, with fighters declining, I have to, of course, I have my full-time job, luckily it's hybrid, so I get time to train, spend time with my son. But yeah, I'm still open. I'll fight anyone, anywhere for any promotion. I don't care. Let's go.
I'd love to see you in Ryzen. I'm a big fan of Ryzen, what they do. I think, like, pound for pound, I think they put on the most exciting product. Talking about like I love the champions from Ryzen that have made their way over to other promotions. Starboy, Sakura, Jiri, one of those. So have always loved the way that Ryzen deals with it. I wish they had more events, but that is a promotion that it captures a little bit of the old nostalgia too that people kind of miss with some of the Pride stuff. Um, so, you know, the other thing with that is as you're in this position and trying to kind of make the next leap up and, get with one of those more major promotions where people won't be ducking you all the time, you would hope. How important is it to have, representation, management, whatever it is that people use, that you trust to be, working on these things for you and doing the job that you want them to.
Yeah, it's that's a big part because there's so many management that will just sacrifice you to the lambs. They'll put you against maybe another prospect they're trying to build up. So yeah, that's a very big aspect. I have a manager that I trust. He's the one who's putting together all these matchups where these people are declining me. Pretty much in all sorts of promotions. So I trust that a lot. I can't lie. What I need to do more is PR. I had somebody, but right now I had to swap them out. I'm looking to get someone new. Uh, yeah, because right now I'm in my position where it's like I want to just start doing more for the community for the time being. Just get more involved. Pretty much my whole goal is to use my fighting as a platform to really benefit the people in all aspects, from youths, developing mental awareness, confidence and being able to just be optimistic and go after what they want. I feel
And,
like a lot of fighters, they can be selfish, but no, we need to give back to the youth because they're going to be the next generation.
and especially in embracing your Haitian roots, like it seems simple, but it really is as simple as when kids see you reaching a certain level and see it being successful and reaching the top, it does have an effect, especially on the people who share those same roots as you. Representation at certain levels is very important for people to see. And if people need any further proof of that, you look at just what you look at the connection between like Conor McGregor and Ireland. I don't know what it's like now, but look at what it was at the time. And it's like, oh my God, those people like that actually changed some stuff for a lot of people. I'm sure. Look and how Habib put, Dagestan on the map. Like those are real things that people can accomplish.
Right. These people can be presidents or prime ministers. I'm not sure what was the leader of Ireland or Dagestan. Yeah, but yeah, just a big impact on their people. I feel like that's what it really comes down to because we're not going to be here forever. So you gotta make sure the future generation is good to go. Because right now it seems like I don't know, there's a lack of motivation. There's too many distractions in the world, and right, these kids need to get right. They need to see representation of like the right way to do things. And it's like you'd be surprised, like names like Conor McGregor and Khabib. I'm nowhere near their level, but sometimes in the streets, I can be in different states and somehow people know me. And I'm surprised.
I've seen that too because I've had so a guest I've had on here a handful of different times is a Turkish fighter named Ilyas Mamadaliev out of Ohio. And I went and actually did an episode with him in person one time in the middle of Ohio. And like we were at a Turkish restaurant and some kids actually did come up to him and was like, "Are you the fighter?" It's like, no shit. Like they're actually doing that. Like that's crazy.
Hey, that's awesome. A big shout out to him. Making back in Ohio. I like that.
Well, Olivier, this has been a ton of fun and a very enlightening conversation. What I will say, folks, is one, go check him out on Instagram. Go check out any of his fights that might be on the internet. Give him a follow. And Olivier, if there's anything else that you want to say or anybody you want to shout out, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just want to give a big shout out to my gym, Freedom Fighters MMA. My number one sponsor, Dynamic Wellness. Without you guys, I wouldn't be here today. So thank you so much. I'm gonna continue to make you guys proud.
Folks, follow me on Twitter at RotoBrady as the combat sports starts to heat up here for 2026. Follow me on Instagram at RotoBrady MMA. Follow the podcast on YouTube at Tap That MMA Podcast. Folks, thank you so much for listening. Have yourselves a great week. Check out some of the other interlude episodes we pumped out here over the last few weeks, and peace.